Well, hey you guys, how are you today? Thanks so much for stopping by my channel to check out this video. I appreciate that. Today we are talking about, well, today we have another installment of buyer questions to answer for you. So my handy dandy little bag with all of my pieces of paper in there that I pre-wrote months and months and months ago. And we're going to pull out 10 of those and answer those questions. This is completely unscripted. I know what questions are in there, but I have no idea what questions I'm going to be pulling out today because, I mean, it's a whole lot of questions. So, quick reminder, my name is Cristina Vanthul. I'm a realtor with Keller Realty here in the Tampa Bay area. If you have questions about real estate in this area, if you're looking to buy in Dunedin, Safety Harbor, Oldsmar, Palm Harbor, Tarpon Springs, or really any of the Tampa Bay area, give me a call. I will be happy to help you out with that. But now, let's jump into our video, shall we? Okay, question number one. Question number one is, I hope it's an easy question. When buying a house, can I borrow more for renovations? It's a good question. It's a relatively easy question. And yes, the answer is yes, you can. When buying a house, there is a loan program from FHA called the, I believe it's a 203K, 203K. Anyways, it is a construction loan program or a renovation loan program. So yes, it's possible to borrow more than your loan amount to be able to do renovations and construction to the house. There are certain requirements, like you can't borrow that money and then do the work yourself unless you're a licensed contractor. There are certain requirements, so they will require that you have a licensed contractor who pulls permits and does all the work, that you have proof of all of this, and they will issue the money back to you in draws to then pay your contractor. So there are some regulations around all that. It's not going to be as easy as, hey, let's get an extra $25,000 and then we'll just spend that money on materials to get stuff and pay ourselves. Again, unless you're a licensed contractor, that's not going to happen. So, but yes, the answer is yes, you can. Moving on to the next question. What should I do if I am buying a house I can't afford? So when I was putting these questions together, I literally went to Google and just started Googling stuff that people were, like trending questions and what people were asking about on Google. That was one of them. Yeah. What should I do if I'm buying a house I can't afford? Don't buy the house. All right? Why are you buying a house that you can't afford? Just don't do it. Just don't buy a house you can't afford. You don't want to be house poor. You should be going to a mortgage lender, to a broker, mortgage broker, and they should be checking all of your finances and telling you you can afford this much. Now, if you're not comfortable, sometimes a lender will say, great, based on all of your paperwork, you're making $5,000 a month, you can afford, I don't know, $2,000 in your mortgage payment or $1,500 or whatever it is. Sometimes maybe you're not comfortable with that. So in that case, if you're not comfortable paying a mortgage payment as much as your lender says that you can afford to pay because you have a lifestyle that includes going out to dinner more often than other people, or that, more often than you would be able to if you had a bigger house payment or whatever. Maybe you like to put away money for traveling. Maybe, there are all kinds of reasons why you don't want to spend all of your money on your housing. So if that's the case, just buy a less expensive house. All right, number three. Buying a house with solar panels. Yep, you can buy a house with solar panels. So solar panels can be purchased or they can be leased. And if you're buying a house that has solar panels, You probably, if they're leased, you probably want to get all of that paperwork. Make sure that you are okay with all the paperwork and understand all of the ramifications to having those solar panels and also to being a party to that lease and if it can be transferred and so on and so forth. So solar panels on a house can be great and they can greatly reduce your electric bill. However, if you're buying a house with leased panels, you can run into some problems. So make sure you get all of that paperwork up front and understand exactly what you're getting into and what happens at the end of that lease and so on and so forth. How to buy a house through private sale. Not quite sure exactly what that means. Only because there are so many different things that it could mean. So does that mean you're buying from a FSBO, from a for sale by owner? Does that mean you're buying with a private money lender? So yeah, there are a lot of different ways that can go. If you're buying a house that is listed for sale by owner, I highly recommend that you either get yourself a realtor to help you through the process, or you hire an attorney to look over all the paperwork and make sure that you're getting everything the way that it should be done and that you're not getting screwed somewhere in the process. Because the last thing you want is to buy, especially right now, there's so many investors who are selling brand, I don't want to say brand new, but blinged out houses that have been completely renovated, and it might be a situation where you go in and you fall in love with it and you're like, yeah, sure, no problem. I don't need to get any inspections. Please don't do that. Get inspections, just always treat it very carefully and make sure that you're protected. Same thing if you're buying a house with private money through a hard money lender or private money lender, you're generally going to have a higher interest rate. You might have balloon payments. So just make sure that you're reading all of the paperwork very, very carefully and you understand exactly what you're getting into. Number 5. Oh, so easy. Can I buy a house cash? Absolutely. Bring it on. Cash is king. Yes. Okay, number 6. Can buying a house be a tax write-off? So full disclosure, I am not a tax professional. If that is a question that you need an answer to, you should talk to your tax professional. There are certain aspects of buying a house. There are certain aspects of owning a house. There are certain expenses to owning a house that you can write off on your taxes. These things change sometimes from year to year, so your best bet is to talk to a tax professional. Can you buy a house and for $300,000 and write off $300,000 on your taxes? No, you can't do that. But there will be certain things that you can write off, and you need to talk to your accountant about that, not to your realtor. I have done accounting, but I'm not an accountant. All right, number 7. Buying a house with a 0 interest rate. Buying a house with a 0 interest rate. I don't know that there is a 0 interest rate in houses. I mean, how are the banks going to make their money? If you find a 0 interest rate, then you probably want to read all the fine print and make sure that there's not going to be something like a balloon payment in 2 years that you're going to end up owing all of it in one lump sum. So I don't know of any 0 interest loans, but again, if you find something like that or someone is offering you something like that, definitely do your homework and make sure that it's not something that's going to screw you in the long run. Because again, banks and lenders, they need to make money somehow. They're not just giving away money for free. Trust me, they're not giving away money for free. All right, number 8. Buying a house versus a condo. Well, that's a personal preference, of course. There are pros and cons to both. So my personal preference is to live in a house because I have dogs and I like gardening, and so I prefer to have a yard. But some people don't want that. So again, it's a personal preference. The pros to buying a house. When you buy a house, unless you're in an HOA community, you don't have any kind of monthly association fees. You have a yard, sometimes a very small yard, and sometimes a very large yard. You don't have your neighbors right below you or right above you or right next to you like you do in a condo or a villa or a townhouse. So you don't have any shared walls. You have a yard if you have dogs, or if you love gardening, or if you want to grow exotic fruits and vegetables. Or one of the things it's a lot of people, including myself, are doing now is like urban homesteading, or you want to have chickens, which you can have in St. Pete and Dunedin and in other municipalities in Pinellas County. Having a yard is a great thing. The downside to owning a house is that you have all of the exterior maintenance of your house to do yourself. You have all of the yard maintenance to do yourself. Unless you buy a house with a pool, you don't have a pool. And if you have a pool, you have all the pool maintenance to do yourself. So you are responsible for everything. Whereas you're not always responsible for everything in a condominium or in a townhouse or in a villa. So those are the downsides. You have yard maintenance. So if your lifestyle is to be away from home on the weekends, to be out partying, playing with friends, traveling a lot, doing those things, maybe maintaining your yard isn't something that is easy for you to do. If you don't have dogs and you don't need a yard, or you don't have kids or you don't need a yard, then maybe, a yard is something that's going to be a headache for you. So pros and cons. For a condo, the pros are that you don't have all of that maintenance. So with the condo, depending on the complex, you have your exterior maintenance of the buildings, you have all of the common area maintenance, so all of the green spaces, parks if there's parks. A lot of times there's a clubhouse, there's a pool, you might have tennis courts, shuffleboard courts, picnic areas, barbecue areas. Oh, that's another thing. A lot of times with a townhouse or a condo, with a house, you can have your own grill and you can have your barbecues and your smokers and all that stuff in your backyard. Many condo complexes don't allow that because it's a fire hazard. So with a condo, the pros are that you have a lot less exterior maintenance to take care of yourself. And in some of them, they even maintain the windows and the sliding glass doors or French doors and the front doors or garage doors as well. So depending on the complex or on the association, you have a lot of stuff taken care of for you in that monthly association fee. Most of those also include, besides the clubhouse and pools and all the other things, sewer, trash, water, and basic cable. So you've got all of that taken care of. And they will include insurance on the building, so you don't have to handle the insurance. You just need contents insurance for your contents on the inside of the building. The downside is you have neighbors above you, below you, to the side of you, depending on where you are in that building. Some of the problems that I've encountered when I've lived in apartments and in situations like that is that they can be loud. I lived in one apartment where we had rhinos upstairs. Whew. I've lived in places where the walls were so thin you could hear what was happening at night in the apartment next to you. Didn't need to hear all that. I lived in a place once that had great sound barriers between the units. We couldn't hear each other. They were well built that way. However, my neighbor was super dirty, and we ended up getting those little German roaches in our place because she had them all over her place. So if your neighbors have a little bit of a bug infestation, you might have a little bit of a bug infestation. So those are some of the downfalls to having a condo. You're also restricted a lot of times in some of the things that you can have outside. I love garden flags, and I've got my American flag outside and all of those things. A lot of times you can't do those things in condominiums. So, it depends on your lifestyle, what's important to you, what it is that you want, what it is that you do at home, and what's important to you and what's not important to you as far as whether buying a house or buying a condo is better. So there we go. That was the longest answer yet. That was number 8. Moving on to number 9. Let's see. Should I buy a house right now? Well, that's an easy one. Yeah, clearly. If you can buy a house, you should buy a house. Interest rates are still remarkably low. Prices are continuing to increase, if not staying the same, but they're not going down, and they're not going to anytime soon. So should you buy a house? Absolutely. Buy a house. Call me and we'll get you into a house. How to buy a house with bad credit. That's a tough one. I guess it depends on your definition of bad credit. You know, is your bad credit that you have a 680 credit score, or is it that you have a 450? If you have a 450, you've got some work to do and you can't buy a house because no one's going to give you money. If you have a 680, there are a lot of mortgage programs available to you. If you have cash, you know, like we said earlier, cash is king. But seriously, how to buy a house with bad credit. One of the lenders that I work with works with great credit repair people. If you want her phone number, I will be happy to give it to you. And what they do is they'll run your credit, and she will sit down with you and say, okay, these are the things that you need to do to improve your credit. You need to either pay off these things, or you need to pay off these things, ignore these things for right now, and get a credit card, like a secured credit card, and pay it off every month, and blah, 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 blah. So there are credit repair people and mortgage lenders that will walk you through what things you need to do to improve your credit so that you can qualify for a good loan. And those are the kinds of people that you want to talk to and get advice from. And, you know, and it's going to depend on your specific situation, what it is that you need to do to improve your credit to be able to get a loan. But that's really going to be the only way to buy a house with bad credit. The only other way really would be to either buy it cash or to get hard money or private money from someone and, you know, pay them. But again, those are going to oftentimes require, private money lender oftentimes is going to require a much larger down payment. They're going to require a higher interest rate. And in a lot of cases, they have what's called a balloon payment. So they'll give you that money for a year or two, and then they're going to expect you to improve your credit during that time period so that you can get a loan with a, you know, a regular loan at the end of that balloon period. When that balloon payment comes due, you're going to have to pay the entirety of that loan to your private lender, money lender. They're not giving out money to give it out for 20 or 30 years. They want that money back so that they can give it to other people so they can collect more interest on it. So it's, you know, it's not in their best interest to just give money and then have it sitting out there. It's in their best interest to get that money back, and they're going to help you in the short term, but it's not a long-term solution. So really your best bet is to speak to a good lender and have them walk you through what you specifically need to do in order to improve your credit to be able to get an FHA loan or a VA loan or whatever, you know, a conventional loan, whatever it is that is going to be the best kind of loan for you. And again, if you need recommendations for those folks, I will be happy to provide those to you. Just let me know. That was our 10 buyer questions. I will do this, like I said, every month. So come back next month. I'll have 10 more questions to answer for you guys. I hope you found that useful. If you have any additional questions that those brought up for you, leave them in the comments and I'll be happy to answer those questions for you. If you want to have a one-on-one conversation, shoot me an email or call me. My information is below in the description. And of course, like, subscribe, come hang out in the channel, watch some other videos. And as always, have a fabulous day. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.